Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to introduce the team real quick. There's a few that aren't here, but I'll grab them at the end. This is Aaron and Carol's from Springfield, Missouri. This is Sarah. She goes to Blue Springs South, so she's in high school, and her friend Jordan also went with us. She's also a senior at Blue Springs South. You know Gary. This is Gary. And this is my friend Jordan from school, and my friend Bree from school. We also had another girl go with us. Her name's Paige. She wasn't able to be here today because of her brother's basketball tournament. This is my mom, Leslie, and Lenny Zielinski. We also had Heather's brother, Ethan, go with us. And then along the way, we met up with a couple others who were able to come with our group. Their names were Carlos and Gabby. You'll see some of their pictures in the slides. I'm not forgetting anybody, right? All right.
Great. So we wanted to give you a quick introduction about Haiti, and actually Lenny put the slide together for us. You guys can see those facts that are up there right now. The ones that I want to call out are really around the poverty. And then I want to explain to you guys, though, that the orphanage that we went to does not look like the rest of Haiti. It is actually very nice, very, very high up in Haiti standards, but literally across the street, there are homes that are made out of nothing but stick and cinder blocks, and they might have corrugated tin for a roof, or their roof might be a tarp. Their walls might be a tarp, or their walls might have some sort of other furnishings on them, like cinder block. So what you're going to see, a lot of what you're going to see is not the vast poverty that's there, and so kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at this.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of history on the orphanage and the church and the school. Jacksonville Baptist Association started out going into this community trying to get fresh water and food for some of the kids. They started the school and drilled some wells, and the school, I think, started with 35 children, and they tried to give them one meal a day. They're up to, I believe, 400, and they're back down to one meal a day. They were doing two. Some of these kids, that's the only meal they get. The orphanage itself, the first picture on the left is the 10. The first time we went, the orphanage opened in mid-April of 2004, and we ended up going down at the end of May. And they had 10 kids. And now they have approximately 50. I think most of them may be in that picture on the right, I'm not sure. But they have a thriving and growing community. Some of the kids that are older, they're gradually trying to figure out how to get them back in the community and out of the orphanage to where they can function in society and make room for more. So that's the process they're working on. While we're getting a slideshow ready, one of the things we've talked about in the past was the tilapia ponds. Well, it's an ongoing process, the way they're building it, and they were at a stage that could be done by the locals, and whenever they can do that, that's what they end up doing. And so that's why we didn't get to work on it. So we'll share about some of the other things as we go along. Are you ready for the slideshow? Okay, let's go.
Mike, turn it, Mike, orange.
Okay, until I know what I'm doing. We're each going to share a little bit that was special to us, and then I've got a few here that I want to make sure that we kind of get covered if nobody does. I think my highlight of the trip was getting to actually get to a little closer to some of the kids. Some of them I've known a long time, and one of them is kind of a little rambunctious. We had a night where I'd taken some old pictures from the farmer trips, and the kids went wild with it. And the next night, this young man, or that night, anyway, one of the nights after this was going on, he came up. He wanted to use my computer. We were using my computer to do it, and he didn't have a DVD player at the time. And we had the guitar the night before, and I was going to play a little bit, and he's really good on it, and he ended up with it. And it was time for the kids to go to bed and for us to take it upstairs. He wasn't going to give it to me, and they had a little discussion about it for at least 5 minutes. And he finally gave it to me. The next night, he wanted the DVD player. And I told him no. And one of the other girls, a little younger, which is kind of, she's a girl and she's younger, I put her in charge of the computer, and he was really upset with me. And I had a couple people say, is he going to be mad at you? I said, he'll get over it. It was really, if I can get it out. The next morning, he really surprised me. He came up, I was doing dishes, which is not a man thing for Haiti either. But he came up to me and he said, I'm sorry, you're a respectful man. And that, I know that had to be hard for him to do. And that was probably my highlight of the trip.
For me, I think the whole theme of change. This was my second trip to Haiti, and it was only my second. Can't wait for my third. But just to see all the change. And the change started with who was even going on our trip. The original group, there were like 6 people who were originally going who ended up not being able to go, and then others ended up filling their spot. And I know for sure that that was God's hand in all of that, because we had the perfect team. It was just awesome. And then just to see all the change that was there. And I will say I was a little disappointed. It had only been maybe 18 months since we'd gone before. And like the little boy that I was closest to on the last visit didn't remember me. But then I thought that's great, because he didn't remember me because there were all these other people who had come and who had made a change and an impact in his life. And as we went through, every day our plans changed. What we thought we were going to work on, we didn't get to work on. The day we thought we were going to go to the beach, we didn't get to go to the beach. But that's okay, because we all have change, and these kids deal with change every day. And then the piece of change that was probably most impactful to me was when we got to see the school. And we went across the street and we saw the rooms that we had started building 18 months ago. And I could have never imagined the change that had occurred. Not only were they finished, we kept saying, have they made progress? Are they finished? Is there a roof on it? Not only was there a roof on it, the walls were stuccoed and they were painted and they were beautiful. And there were chalkboards and there were desks and there were verses on the walls and there was learning that was occurring, and change was just growing and just abundant. And so those little seeds that we planted last time had bloomed, and we got to see that. And we got to just see it many, many other places, but we don't have time for me to cover them all this morning. So thank you all for your support and letting us be a part of this mission. And it took all the donations from everybody here, as well as all the fundraisers and our personal contributions to get there. I will say it was over $27,000 we spent for this group in total to go. And so we thank you for all of that.
One of my favorite things that happened while we were there was actually within the first hour of us being there. And I got to do a lot of things this time that I didn't get to do last time, which was really neat. I got to go into town and see stuff. But when we pulled in, it was real dark and stuff. Just all the kids, you see them get excited and stuff while you're there and you're having a blast with them, but it was just so fun to listen to them all chant as we come in the gate in the truck. We're all packed in there, Carlos, Carlos, Carlos. And when Carlos got off the truck, they all just swarmed, and it was really cool because, like I said, you get to see them happy while you're there, but it's just that pure moment of joy, and I know God has put Carlos there and all of us there too at the right times, but really to love on those kids.
I definitely learned a lot in Haiti, and I'd say that every moment there was really a blessing.
But one of my favorite was definitely playing soccer. I don't know if you guys could see on the pictures, the dirt field, they had posts that were just stuck in the ground, and those were the goals. They don't normally let girls play, so I'd like to think that I gave them a little bit of a run for their money.
She did.
But they definitely taught me a lot of new tricks, and it was great to not only connect with them on like a verbal level, but to be able to connect with them through a sport that we both love to play, a universal sport. So that was a way for me to connect with the kids, not just through hugs, but by being competitive and playing with them.
I wanted to focus a little on the hearts of the kids there and how giving and sweet and generous they are, even though they're living in a country that's full of poverty. On Sundays, the parents get to come and visit, and the ones that can bring little gifts for their children. And one little girl had received a couple of very small bags of cheese puffs. And she came out on the front porch with her little bag of cheese puffs, and she was sharing with the younger children, and even some of the younger children that she would pass one to would pass on to another child. So they were taking their special treat and passing it around. And that same day, one of the boys, Mackinson, came up to me and asked if he could be my friend. And I said, sure, you can be my friend. You're my friend Mackinson. So when we got ready to climb the mountain that day, because our plans changed and we didn't get to go to the beach, Mackinson said, I will climb the mountain with you. I said, all right. So we headed up the mountain, and Mackinson stayed beside me the entire time. He didn't scamper away like all the other kids were running up the mountain like little mountain goats and running here and there. And Mackinson faithfully stayed by my side all the way up the mountain, all the way back down the mountain. When we got to the bottom of the mountain, it was starting to get dark, and it was just Mackinson and me and Papa Mike, the director at the orphanage. And as we walked through a little area that was a Habitat for Humanity housing area, there were no lights on anywhere. And so I asked Mike, I said, do they not have electricity in these homes? And he said, well, the village has not had electricity for several months. And as he spoke those words, the lights in the village popped on, and you could hear cheering throughout the entire village. And it was a very, very special moment.
Okay, how long do I have? Because my first blessing came through Gary and his wife not being able to go. And so I was one of those who got to fill that spot. So I was blessed from the very beginning. And I cried during everything, and so just get used to that. As you look at these slides, you're thinking, yeah, those are cute kids and everything, but I want to talk about change, the love that's there. And it's seen everywhere. The coolest thing is everybody holds hands. You see it everywhere. Everybody is always holding hands. And the love that these kids have for Christ and waking up in the morning and listening to their songs of praise is how we woke up most mornings, and it definitely fills your heart. You may not be able to understand the songs, but you hear what we heard, Trust and Obey, and there was some other ones that you could tell. I'm not a musical person, but you could tell the rhythm and what was being sung, and so that was wonderful. But there was one slide up there. Mary Jo is the one who took my heart. She's an older girl. She's 22. I think she's 23 now. And she has a clothes closet because in Haiti it's very, very important that you dress to the nines when you come to church. And it is very, very nice when these people come to church and the kids are decked and they're beautiful. And her mission, she's taken it on herself to go out into the community and invite people to church. But they tell her, I'm sorry, I don't have any clothes. And she says, that's not a problem. Come to my clothes closet. So in the midst of all of this, she has found her joy and her calling. And it was so wonderful to work with her and talk with her. And there is so much love there. When you sit down on your couch on a nice, soft chair or a soft anything, carpeted floor, they have 4 benches, 4 picnic tables, and their beds. And they are the happiest people in the world. It makes you think.
Hello. Well, I just love this whole trip. This team, being there, everything. and I'll share more about like the big thing that I learned. But I don't know. I think going to church was like my favorite part. On Sunday, going to a 2.5-hour service in Creole that you don't understand anything. And then all of a sudden, Papa Mike, the director's up there, and he's speaking in English. And you're like, what is that language? You're so caught off guard. And then I was like, I should listen now. I can pay attention. But you just had like 5 kids crawling on you, sweaty, crying. Not really crying, because then they were told to be quiet. But like sleeping, all this stuff. But my most favorite part was when they had communion, and there was this woman who was in the choir, and she went up to receive communion, and she was just standing there before she went up, and she was just screaming, hallelujah, hallelujah, over and over and over, and I just was staring at her, and I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Just seeing the gospel played out in real life for that week was the coolest thing ever. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, you can just see Jesus walking with them. Like, he's not with the people who are dressed super nice. He's not with all the people who are well. He didn't come for the people who are well. He came for those who are sick. And so you could just see it there. And I was just like, I would walk around at night carrying a kid and holding another kid's hand and just walking on the perimeter of the building, just singing with them. It was just so beautiful just to see Jesus in such a real, tangible way, and then coming back was super hard because now I miss it a lot. But yeah, that's a little bit.
There was this story that Mike told us from the earthquake that really stuck with me. He told us about how when it happened and the walls all shook and everything, the kids were so scared afterwards that they all drug their mattresses outside and slept outside for, I don't remember how long, but just because, months, because they were so scared. And so hearing that story and then seeing all of these kids from 2 to 20 with smiles, they're just the smartest, most appreciative people I've ever seen, making kites out of trash bags and strings that they find so that they can have fun on a windy day, playing soccer barefoot on this rocky soil, giving up their Cheetos for little Luke because he wanted them and they were willing to give it up. It was just, I'd never seen that in people before, and it's to people who've been through far more than I could ever imagine.
Yeah, I just had a couple stories. We left, and then Caleb picked us up. It was but 40 below at wind chill that morning. We drove, flew there. You get there at night. We're exhausted, and I'm standing at the airport, and I saw a priest there, and I said, "Hey, Father, how are you?" He goes, "Oh, you're here for the golf tournament?" And I just, for a second, I was like, "What?" And then I'm good, Father. So that, like, in such diversity of poverty and the things that they go through, the laughter, and Ethan, Heather's brother, and I were working on projects, and Gary, Gowie as they call him, we're working all week. We put beds together. We bought some bunk beds for the kids. We tried repairing beds. We were reusing screws and bolts and nuts, and you think we gave these kids $1 million. They were just swarming around, picking up bolts, and Ethan leans over to me and goes, "Man, if we could speak the language, we could rule this country." I mean, these kids would do anything we wanted to do. And I think the last really shocking thing is why the importance of us going over there. We were leaving, and on the car ride over, going back to the airport, there was about a 100-foot mound of rocks and rubble, just in the middle of a field of nowhere. And the guy in the truck looks at me and he goes, "You see that field, that mound over there?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's a mass grave." And I looked at him, I said, "For like how many people?" He goes, "They think about 30 to 35,000. That's one of many here from the earthquake." And just to think of the poverty and destruction and the adversity these kids have to go through, and the laughter and the joy of these kids, where we come back to our lives here, it's unbelievable how nice these kids were and how simple their life is and how happy they are. Come back here and you just realize puts things in perspective. Oh yeah, the truck, they kept talking about we didn't go to the beach. The truck broke down, and I was trying to help repair the truck with a couple guys over there, me and Mike, and it was either the battery or the starter. So he makes a phone call. There's no tools, no anything there. These guys drive up with this truck that it wouldn't be on the road here. Flat tires, just completely windows bashed out. He opens the hood, pulls the battery out. It's not even tied in. Pulls the cables up by hand, leans it upside down, and he's trying to jump the truck. In the truck, battery acid spilling, so we're like, okay, it's not the battery, it's the starter. The guy pulls out a beat-up ammo box, that's his toolbox. He opens it up, there's a Phillips head screwdriver strip, a flat blade, and one wrench. And this guy jumps under the truck, and I'm like, is he gonna get the starter out? In 3 seconds, he's got the starter in his hand. It's like, holy cow! And he leaves, and I looked at Mike, I'm like, when's he coming back? Well, whenever he comes back. So the whole week was like that, of like the generator broke, the car broke, but just things got fixed, and just things happened, because it was just meant to be. It was really a neat experience.
Oh, yeah, Gary asked me if I'd talk a little bit about the tie-dyeing. So we had two main things we thought we would work on while we were out there. One was the tilapia farm. That became bunk beds. The other thing that we did was tie-dye. And so, you know me, I always seem to do a project a little larger than I imagined. So but we had, it was great fun. We ended up buying sheets for all the kids, a new set of sheets, twin sheets for those that are wearing those, crib sheets for the younger ones. We took those with us, so that was a large piece of what was in those duffel bags, along with tie-dye materials, and we had a blast doing tie-dye with the kids. And so I think you saw some of them out there working on them, and you saw pictures where they were hanging from the clotheslines. But the neatest part was how every kid wanted to help. And so, you know, a couple days after we had gotten the dye on them, we had to rinse them out. And of course, there's not washing machines. So they were all washed, these sheets. And, you know, again, if a twin sheet set meant a flat sheet, a fitted sheet, and a pillowcase. And they all had to be washed by hand, rinsed by hand, wrung by hand, and hung up on a line. But even the littlest of kids was out there trying to help us. And not just trying, but was helping us. So it was neat to see them all helping.
To that point, she had a trash bag at one point, and where the sheets were in with the materials, and she was collecting all the trash up. She goes, do you think we should throw these out? And one blew away, and then within 30 seconds, the kid had on a string, and he was flying as a kite. I was like, I guess not.
So I would say that's the other thing is, you know, I would have thought, oh, let's bring kites for the kids, and we'd have bought kite sets. No, we need to let them use their imagination. We need to bring the raw materials, and they can teach us. And it was amazing.
A 2.5-year-old was tying up a kite. How many 5-year-olds don't know how to tie their shoe, and he was tying a kite made from sticks and a trash bag.
Okay, I hit a little bit on the old picture night. From my point, it was one of my highlights because I have kind of kept pictures from the different trips we've taken down. We started in 2004 and basically gone every 2 years. And I had found the pictures from 2004 and 2006. I missed 1 year, 8, 10, somewhere in there. But I had the 2004 and 2006, and they have a TV, and they have an HDMI input. It's a nice TV. They didn't have a DVD player, as we mentioned earlier, and no reception, so they just played DVDs that people brought down or whatever. But anyway, we hooked up my computer so we could show these pictures. And before long, I think we had 2/3 of the kids in there. And every time they'd get a picture of one of the older kids, really little, they would be so loud you couldn't hear yourself. I mean, literally. And they just kept hitting us up to get it. So we did it the next night, but they were a little newer, so they weren't so much fun. Lenny hit a little bit on the beds. As we got down there, the tilapia farm wasn't possible, and he was mentioning the different projects that they had. And one was to have each group, or groups coming down to actually kind of adopt a room or a couple of rooms and build some furniture so the kids would each have a drawer that they had a key to that they could lock and have something that was privately theirs. They do not have that at this point. The truck broke down, and luckily after the first trip in for beds, so we got enough beds for one room, and we got them all put together, and we did a lot of handyman repair stuff, and that kind of filled up the leak. I think at this point, Bree's going to share with us, we had devotion each night, or each day at some point, and she kind of had an impromptu for us that was really as good as any devotions we had.
Hours later, Leslie booked my flight, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to Haiti, cool. So that was really, really awesome, just seeing the Lord's hand over that. And as I think somebody mentioned, the kids would be singing worship songs at like 6 a.m., and it was super cool. And the lady who had lead it was sick for a while, but then our last full day there, she was back. So I was like, well, I'm going to wake up early and go downstairs and hang out and whatever. So I went downstairs and I was just sitting on the side of the orphanage and just like looking over the hills and the sunrise and all this cool, like picturesque, perfect stuff, the kids singing, all this stuff. And I read a passage from Isaiah 40. I read 9 to 24, or wherever the end of this is, 31, 72, I don't know. But I'm just going to read a few verses. It starts in verse 12. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and marked off the heavens with a span, enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance? Who has measured the Spirit of the Lord, or what man has shown him counsel? Whom did he consult, and who made him understand? Who taught him the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding? So I was just sitting there that morning reading that, and I was just like, wow. Like, God, you are so great. Just seeing it in the kids' hearts, like we've talked about, just watching his work there, bringing teams in, the people who are there long term, and just loving these kids every single day, and just teaching them. It was super, super cool. Their pastorate there, his work there. And then how this just applied to my life coming back. We were in a place that was really easy to see God's greatness. It was really easy to see the poverty and right across the street from extreme wealth. So it was really hard, but it was really good seeing how good the Lord is no matter where you're at. And then I come back and I'm sitting in my living room with my parents and they're like, so, like, how was it? Was it hard being there? And I was like, no, it was hard being back. I knew it was going to be hard there, so I prayed about it. But it's hard being here. And my dad was like, well, why? I was like, well, first of all, I'm sitting in a house, so there's that. But just looking at this passage, looking at how our week was there and like having God's greatness right there before us, I'm like, how do I do that now? Like being in school and just like with people working and like going back to real life, my life turns into a checklist. I'm like, I hate this. I hate writing out every single thing I have to do and checking it off and just living my life so mundane, and it's terrible. I hate this. Like, just take me back to Haiti, but that's not worshiping God. Just like saying, get me out of here and take me back there where it was easier to worship Him. Like, no, there's a lot of hard things there. I was talking to my sister about it, and she was like, well, that's the point. Like, you have to find the art and the beauty and the majesty and the mundane, and that's why all of life is worship. And so just like hearing that and just like seeing I have to look for God's greatness. It's not like it's hard to find it, but we just get blinded by everything else that we're doing. So taking my week in Haiti, where my heart is right now, where I long to be, and just bringing it back here and saying, no, my life has beauty and it has meaning and it has art in it, and it's by the creator of the universe, and I'm to worship Him through all of it, even if have a checklist to go through my day, and sometimes you just have to get through it. But just finding ways to worship the great God that we serve, and we don't have to be in an orphanage to do that. So that was my biggest theme.
See why we all love her.
It was like we brought a pastor with us. So thank you all again, and hopefully we'll get to do another one of these trips sooner, maybe rather than later.
I'd like to say thank you to Janice, my wife, for putting all this together. She organizes everything, and I kind of got dumped in the top spot, and I'm going, I can't do this. Leslie helped me out. Lenny helped me out. We all worked as a team. It was really pretty good. I know there's a lot of people we should thank here in the church, and we just appreciate everything you've done for us and with us, and you're part of the trip too.